Picasso and see what he can do with it.
He can make money with it no matter what he does. All right, God, this is going to be a big one. We got to do a good one tonight.
Saying our prayers now, folks.
Saying our prayers. Saying our prayers. It's a little hypocritical, but nobody prays harder than an atheist.
Nobody prays anymore.
Yeah.
Except when they're in trouble.
That's a given, Kate. That's a given, Bubs. Nobody prays harder than an atheist when they're in trouble. I've known a few.
My grandfather said about my mother.
They also say people who go to church should.
All right, Rich.
Can you talk, please?
Hi, hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Because pretty soon this galoot is... Oh, now I can hear myself. Oh, boy, we're ready to rock and roll, as they say.
Testing.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. This is going to be a rough ride. I am not the Preston Pepper you used to know. I am a changed man. I was... What? Okay, don't forget to plug my show. Don't forget to
November
plug
4th.
November 4th in the Nyack Village Theater.
Tickets on Ticket.
Go online.
Okay.
Visit my Facebook page.
This is my Facebook page.
Talk to me, people.
Yes, I am in your power. I will do anything you say, sir. I'm a self-styled messiah.
The voice of the Republic.
And for which it stands.
Or sits.
He's done.
Or falls over.
He's here.
Who's here?
He's here.
The big guy, the big shot.
The big guy.
Who's here?
He's gonna go home. He's
Oh,
gonna
I thought you meant the angry human.
Right?
Where's the angry human? I want to talk to that boy. Here we go. All right, everybody. Rich. Here we go.
Alex, you ready?
Give me some applause when I come on in and do his...
Okay.
My fellow conservatives, are you tired of being lied to by the liberal media monopoly? Well, few no more. My great love for America is driving me forward. Turn your radio dial all the way to the right, America, and learn the truth. It's time for Pep Talk with me, Preston Pepper.
Oh, boy. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening to all of my wonderful fans who've turned their radio dials all the way to the right. Here we are, and the election is heating up, and we've got a lot of things to talk about tonight. But first of all, I want to make an announcement on November 4th in this building, the Nyack Village Theater on Main Street in lovely Nyack. I, Preston Pepper, and the gang, Rich and Alex and Bubbles and Jesse and all of the wonderful people here at Rockland World Radio, who have worked so hard through the year with me to present this wonderful show, Pep Talk, which has kept the public informed in the face of all the propaganda that has been flooding the airways thanks to the liberal media monopoly. I'd like to thank all the wonderful people who are going to make this special show possible. You're going to hear more about it. Come to my Facebook page and come to our website and learn about what we've got planned. It's going to be one of the most spectacular shows in the history of the media. We are going to tell it like it is. We are going to break all the barriers. We are going to confront the liberal media monopoly, and we are going to have our say. And when you are finished with this show, boys and girls, you are going to be one of the most informed people in the United States. You're never going to need to read a newspaper again. You're never going to have to turn on your radio. You will know all you need to know, and that's really all I want to say. Well, what has Old Pep been up to? Old Pep's been up to a number of things. I had a horrendous trip down to Washington. I didn't want to go down to Washington, of course. But Bubbles said, you know, Pep, things are hot. Things are pretty hot down there, and they want to talk to you. You know, Obama finally started answering my phone calls, except I wasn't calling him. He was calling me. Turnaround is fair play, I imagine. So I said, you know, if it's you know who, tell him I'm walking my dog. Well, finally we were put together on the phone and we talked for a little while, and he said, come on down. And I figured the only way to get the president off my back and to stop Joe Biden and the boys in the Democratic Party from calling me up was to go down there. You know, they are anxious. They are anxious to get old Pep to change parties. And, you know, Bubbles thinks it might be a good idea. As Jane Fonda said, it's about time that man of yours came out of his cave. Now, I'm a small R Republican from way, way back, boys and girls, as we all know, and it's really bothered me, as I have said on numerous occasions, the idea of old Pep as a Democrat, it evokes images of Ted Williams playing for the Yankees, but you know, Chris Matthews with his glib Irish tongue got on the phone and we talked for a while, and he says, you know, Pep, the Democratic Party isn't what it used to be. It's not the party of Roosevelt. Yeah, we talk the talk, but the truth is we don't walk the walk. We want to go to the office in a big limousine like everybody else. You're going to love the new Democratic Party. You come on down. We'll show you a good time. And I talked about it and I thought about it, and you know, when I get into these kind of situations, what does old Pep do? You know what old Pep does when he's confused. I got out my cell phone. I called my dad. And I rang the phone rang, and Dad answered the phone. He said, what do you want? And I said, I don't really want anything, Pop. I just would like to talk to you and get some fatherly advice. And he said, aha. What's your problem? And I said, look, my problem is this. You know, I've been having some problems. You know about my ongoing conflict. What's going on? Oh, my God, it looks like Rich is going to have a lynching here after the show, you know? They'll try anything to get the ratings up. I hope they don't really hang anybody. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to dispose of the body, you know? I mean, I'll do what I can. I'll call Big John and see if we can just dump the corpse in the drink, but I told him it's not a good idea anyway, you know. And I said, Pop, look, Pop, I'm having trouble with my own party, and, you know, the word got around. It's a small world, the political world I inhabit. And, you know, when I passed that idea over to the Democrats, you know, would you trust a man who doesn't drink Coca-Cola? They were anxious to meet with me and make me a deal. They told me, look, Pep, we understand what you said about you feeling like Ted Williams putting on a Yankee uniform, but that's old-time baseball. That's old-time politics, Pep. Now are the days of lucrative free agentry, and we might be able to make you a hell of a deal. And as I think Chris explained to you, it's not the same Democratic Party of the old days. This is not Franklin Roosevelt's Democratic Party. This is more like Bill Clinton's Democratic Party, where it's kind of every man for himself, and basically, you know, we have to spout out a certain party line like the fellas in your party do, but as we've often heard you quote your great friend Marlon Brando, and I stopped for a second and I said, let's not talk about Marlon. It's something that's too close to me. You know, I loved Marlon Brando. He was a very good friend of mine. He said, yeah, but you've said. I said, I know what I've said, boys. I know what I've said. I've said Marlon Brando said to me at the end of the day, at 5 o'clock, when everybody punches out and heads to the Washington bars, politics is basically window dressing. And they said, of course, Pep, he was an astute fella. You're not that good of an actor unless you have a certain read on human nature. And I said, you know, I got that kind of read too. He told me, by the way, boys, you know, this may all be in vain. For all your good or bad intentions, I may just be leaving politics completely. I don't need politics anymore. And that's when Chris Matthews jumped into the conversation, and he says, yeah, but politics needs you, Pep. Politics needs you. So I flew down to Washington, and man, was it horrendous. I get into Dulles Airport, and who's meeting me but Ed Schultz and Chris Matthews? And let me tell you, it was not the best best company I could have kept on the ride to the White House, and it all had to be done secretly. In the meantime, we're driving into the White House through Washington, and Ed Schultz can't stop talking about Redskin football, and he gets into an argument with Matthews, who's a big Patriot fan, and I'm a Jet fan, so I'm just soaking in the back seat, and I don't drink anymore, so what the hell does the minibar mean to me? But I took note of it, and I said, these Democrats are beginning to learn how to live. Well, we get there, and, they usher me in the back. They don't want anyone. I had said I do not want the press. I don't want the Fifth Estate to see old Pep, coming into the White House. Yet anyway, the only way I really want to go into that building is, as the president, but it doesn't seem to be in the cards right now, even though Madam Hepzibah said old Pep is probably the reincarnation of Teddy Roosevelt, and there's big things in the future for me, but the future will have to wait. The future's not today. One day the future will be today, and one day today will be tomorrow, and tomorrow is the first step into the history books. That's the way it works, boys and girls. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, I sat down in the Oval Office, and the president was on the other side of his desk, and they tried to dress the place up for me. They had Coca-Cola paraphernalia everywhere, and, they had these big galvanized iron buckets full of iced Coca-Cola in the old classic bottles, and they really were trying to make an impression on me, and we talked for a while, and I gave him my ideas. I outlined my ideas for the upcoming debate, and he was listening to me, and he was shaking his head, and I said, Mr. President, you're not going to have any trouble with the debate if you do exactly what I say. Just look him in the eyes and say, would you drink Coca-Cola if the fate of the United States depended on it? And I know him as a good Mormon. He never could. He wouldn't drink Coca-Cola. He's sworn not to touch caffeine, and I know you have him right there, because the American people cannot function without caffeine. And we talked for a while about what my role would be in the Democratic Party if I was to become a Benedict Arnold and basically cross the street. And I just wasn't convinced. It just still didn't feel right. I'm not welcome in my own party, but I don't really think I need the party. If I need to hang out with political people these days, I can just go back to Britain, hang out in Scotland, go down to London and hang out with the Tory party, and they really appreciate me. These guys have class. They're not like a bunch of hacks from Arkansas who are banging the Bible and handling snakes and talking about other things. These are men of culture and class, wealth and taste. These are the kind of people that Pep was meant to hang out with. And I really have to thank one man above all others for the new life I'm leading. That's Major Mike. Major Mike, the cricket editor for the Telegraph, and he's a great conservative writer and thinker. He was the one who got together. He caucused with Bubbles out at the Trophy Wives Ball in San Diego last year, and while I was, just interviewing some of the lovelies, I was talking to the lovely ladies. What's going on back there? Is anything happening that old Pep should know about? I don't know what's going on around here anymore. There's all kinds of intriguing going on in Rockland World Radio. Shut 'em up, Bubbles, or I'll give 'em a bop right on the old cocoa. Well, anyway, Major Mike, basically was caucusing with Bubbles. And, he said what he has said so many times to me, to her. He said, Pep is not only a pundit, he's a philosopher. Oh my God. Would somebody walk that dog? The angry human, I deal with him. He's not really angry. It's just, it's a game he plays. Stick around, chicken! It's a game the angry human plays, because he's been hurt as a child. He's the victim of a liberal upbringing. I'd like to get him into the program. One day I'm going to walk in that room and 12-step the guy and get him to Liberals Anonymous. I am going to make that boy a happy man. He'll be angry no more. He'll be a small R Republican, and I'd like to get him on the team. Most of the people on my team are recovering liberals, except for Rory, of course, who I love like a brother and is a lifelong small R Republican. Well, anyway, Major Mike says, You know, if Pep had been born in Britain, he'd have a title, Bubs. And, you know, she said to Major Mike, you know, that's a nice idea, Michael. And I was thinking of buying him a Major League franchise for his birthday. He loves baseball so much, or maybe a football team. But, you know, a title might be nice, too. Well, cut to the quick. Karl Rove and I fixed an election for Mother of the Year, and Bubs was so grateful that she and Mike went right out and bought me this title in Scotland. And since the moment I became the Laird of Dundeel, I became a changed man. And it's been reflected in my actions. You know, immediately I sprung into action when I saw that my new fiefdom was in financial crisis. I got the derelict distillery running and some other business opportunities. We now have our own monster and our own lock, and tourism is beginning to flourish. And because of all of these actions that I took, I realized democracy isn't all it's cracked up to be. In fact, feudalism, the kind of government that I provide for the people in Dundeel, is far more effective for correcting the problems that these people and their community are facing, and they love me up there. I've got friends. I get phone calls all the time from people like Rod Stewart and Sean Connery and all the great people of Scotland, and Billy Connolly, that crazy comedian with the heavy accent from Glasgow. I can't understand a word he says, but I know from the look in his eyes he looks like a stray dog who's finally gotten himself a good meal, and you know he'll never leave your side. That's what I get when I go to Scotland. I come back to Washington and I'm up to here with grief and anxiety. I go through a case of Pepto-Bismol every day, and I've had enough of it. Oh, Pep has had enough of it. I tell you, I told Bubbles, why don't we just put Eagle's Claw on the market and move to the castle and enjoy ourselves? And consider you the Queen of Scotland. Will have a damn fine time, and if we need anybody to show us the ropes, we got, Prince Philip here working as our social director under the nom de plume of Bartholomew Hughes. That's another story. Well, anyway, I guess a lot of people want to find out from old Pep what he thinks happened in the debates. This is what I'm paid the big money, or used to be paid the big money, to deliver. Political opinion of the highest order. Obama didn't look very good, did he? And I think it all goes back to something my father once said. If you shake a tree, a lot of professors are going to fall out, but very few litigators. Well, this is basically paraphrasing an old baseball adage about hitters and fielders. And clearly, Obama's not a litigator. He is not a litigator. He's a teacher. Teachers are those who can't teach, and he clearly can't. And I wouldn't want him defending me for a parking ticket. I'm sorry I have to say this. And I told him what to do in the debate, to play the Coca-Cola line up big. Instead, he just backed off and lost the debate. Where this is all going to end up, nobody can really tell. We might end up with Mitt Romney as the president, something that I'm not too happy about, but hey, the big guy in the White House brought it upon himself by doing so poorly in the debates. Now, Bubbles is saying I got to do something to help him out, and I said, I told him when I was there that what I saw in his cabinet was the blind leading the blind, and if he'd give me 10 minutes, I could turn the whole situation around. But immediately that provoked all kinds of infighting. Everybody was going nuts and screaming and yelling, how dare they bring me in? I was from the other party and they wanted to frisk me for a microphone. And it got a little bit crazy. And, Ed Schultz was going, how do we know he's not here to spy on us? I said, my God, you're lucky nobody's spying on you, and I'm not spying on you. Why would I want to spy on you? I came here to try to save the United States of America from a nefarious plot hatched on another planet, the planet of Kebab, where the Mormon gods sit and wait to take over our great land and take away our playthings and caffeine. and it was a ridiculous meeting, a completely ridiculous meeting. All I wanted to do, to tell you the truth, was to get back to Eagle's Claw and be with my baby. And I got back there, and, Bubbles was sitting there. I finally got back late at night, after being driven back to the airport. Thank God Bubbles sent her private plane to pick me up. I said, because I called her up, I said, Bubbles, get me out of here. And she did. And I got back there, and she said, how did it go? Are you going to switch parties? And I said, hardly. Hardly. It just isn't working for me, Bubs. I just could never be a Democrat. But I'll do what I can to throw a couple of wrenches in Mitt's plans. But I don't know. I am just disappointed with everything right now. It's just not working for me here. I want to go back to Scotland. And she said, we'll do that, but maybe I can buy you something, Pep. The football season started, and I was thinking, how'd you like to have a Super Bowl party this year that you'll never forget? And I said, we have a Super Bowl party every year. She says, yeah, but what I want to do is I want to have the game played on the back lawn. And I said, oh, my God. Oh, Bubs, you would do that for me? She said, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be difficult. We could easily accommodate 80,000 people back there. And I could, take on a little bit new staff. And what's going on around here? It sounds like people are taking down my every word. It's absolutely incredible. One of the things I like about Rockland World Radio is the lack of protocols. Because after living in a world of protocols like I've inhabited all my life, it's really nice to live in this little zone of anarchy. You know what I mean? It's a space capsule of anything goes. So old Pep is kind of delighted to be here on occasion, but still, this lack of respect is probably not good for my image, which is suffering terribly right now. People in this country want me to do something, for them to take over something and show them how things can be run right. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it. Our country is going to hell in a handbasket, and probably the problem starts with the lack of education. The kids of America are being cheated of their own proud heritage by a so-called educational system that practically teaches them nothing. Nothing that they're learning, particularly in history, economics, or civics, is worth anything, and somebody's got to do something about that. I feel that I could, but, it's very difficult to buck an entrenched system. Oh, my God, I got a telephone call. Just a second. David, I'm working my show. What's going on? No, I'm online. I'll call you when the show's over. Okay, David, we'll talk tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye. This is what I have to put up with anywhere I am. People call me up. God knows what that guy wanted, Maybe he wants to borrow money or sell a stolen car. It's that kind of life I'm leading, and I'm really getting tired of it. I get no respect. Does this happen to me in Scotland? Not a bit. When I'm over in Scotland, they treat me like royalty. When I come back here, they treat me like dirt. You figure it out. Would you rather be treated like royalty, or would you rather be treated like dirt? That's like something my father would pose to me. You want to be treated like royalty? You want to be treated like dirt? I want to be treated like royalty. I've done a lot for this country. I've spent 40 years in the trenches in the culture wars fighting for freedom. I've worked with some of the biggest and the baddest and the best. I worked for Nixon, Ollie North, Dick Cheney, Rumsfeld, the whole gang. And you know what? You ask any one of those men who was the most loyal servant of freedom, and I am certain that they would say Preston Pepper. If you need somebody to show you the ropes in the freedom business, you go see old Pep. What happens? I come back here. No respect. They know at 9 o'clock every Tuesday night that old Pep is on his show, broadcasting to the people out there in America from Rockland World Radio. And what do? They call me up. Why do they do that to the angry human? Why don't they bother the angry human? You know why they don't bother the angry human? They know, because the angry human isn't a soft touch like old Pep. Old Pep, well, whatever it is, tomorrow I'll have to call him back, and he'll probably want something, and I'll probably have to cough it up. They try that on the Angry Human, they get an earful, I'll tell you. They get an earful, I'll tell you. And maybe that's the way I have to go. Maybe I gotta get a little angry because I am getting so upset with what's going on around here. I mean, nobody is paying me respect. I don't know. Maybe I'll go fishing this weekend with Ebenezer McAdoo down in Barbados. He wants to go down there and talk about his funeral plans. He's got a new idea, something to do with the Kon-Tiki. It could be interesting. Why not? I'm tired of being around this neighborhood. Nobody pays attention to me except when they want something. And maybe that's what being a laird is all about. But I keep asking myself why the Scots don't ask me for favors and the Americans do nothing else. If it's not this guy, it's that guy, and if it's not that guy, it's this guy. Old Pep is completely fed up. I've tried so hard. I tried so hard to do right by all these people. Last night I had to talk to the Kleptomaniakis brothers again. They're feuding and, they want us out, and I had to make some kind of accommodation with them, and I'm fed up. I'm really fed up. Nobody is giving us the respect. You know how we are. Richard and I have one mission. That's to save America. To save America. People don't want to be saved. They just don't want to be saved. These people think they don't need to be saved. Well, let me tell you something, pal. If you're listening to The Angry Human, you need to be saved. And yeah. And anyway, I am getting sick and tired of this dog and pony show that is pretending to be politics in the United States. I want to see a stand-up guy in the White House, and if it's not going to be me, who it's going to be. Maybe I should have a compromise ticket. Maybe I should walk in the other room and say to the Angry Human, come on, bozo, let's run for president and vice president together. Because I bet between the two of us, we could really make a big dent in the political process. And it's not a bad job. It really isn't a bad job. Pension, benefits, medical, everything covered. I don't know what I'm going to do, but all I want to tell you, boys and girls, is now I'm going to squeeze my porcupine and calm right
between
down.
our collective skeletons, you'd have the scene from the end of Jason and the Argonauts. They'd be rising out of the ground from the teeth of the Kraken.
Yeah, well,
Just say it.
Nobody
Oh, don't even try that.
You've been smoking Kraken, pal.
Where?
That's what's
Give
going
it to me.
Yeah. I got a hophead in the back room who's masquerading as a Bolshevik. It's getting insane around here. One of these days, though, they're going to realize that Rockland World Radio is the only place that they can come to for the truth. When that happens, maybe there'll be some changes. Until then, I think we're stuck with Ed and Chris and that whole gang of nefarious liars. Pathological liars is what they are, part of the liberal media monopoly. And this has been a pretty wild show, but sometimes it has to be that way. Sometimes I just can't keep my composure. Sometimes I am just going crazy. So I'd like a little help, Richard, get me out of here. And I'm going to go in the next room, and then we're going to have a little talk with the Angry Human about, well, I'm coming to get you. Yeah!
The cavalry.
Crude but effective tonight, boys and girls. I'm afraid to see what that one looked like.